Donald Trump is giving the middle finger to the state of Michigan and the city of Grand Rapids. His campaign is saying they will not be paying the bills for the city services in connection with Donald Trump campaigning in Grand Rapids. In fact, Donald Trump seems to just simply be ignoring the bills. In the swing of things, it's not all that much money. It's less than $100,000. It's like $49,000. The Trump campaign has about $10 million left with their cash on hand. I see like every day Donald Trump is still out there fundraising. He's sending requests to give him more money to his various political action committees and funds, yet he refuses to pay the city for the use of their services. Vice President Kamala Harris had paid them pretty much upfront and right away. And ultimately, who this is screwing over as well, not just the taxpayers of the city. And we know that Michigan, unfortunately, voted for Donald Trump. But, this is also a direct FU to the police officers and firefighters and first responders and the people there who they get paid with this money. I mean, the money is to pay for their overtime. The money is to pay for the services that they're providing. And ultimately, the city is going to have to deal with it. They're going to have to find a way to pay these first responders, which is ultimately going to screw over the taxpayers. But I mean, you're not only screwing over the taxpayers. I mean, you're directly screwing over firefighters, police officers, security, and other state workers who helped put on this campaign event, and the people of the city as well. And look, we've been talking about how Trump's been screwing over and Republicans have been screwing over firefighters and all these different groups who have voted for Trump before, right? The New York firefighters, they were pissed that Republicans were not supporting efforts to provide additional funding for 9/11 first responders. I mean, we're seeing this a lot, but you F around and you find out here when it comes to this stuff. Let's just take a look at this article. Trump campaign won't pay $49,000 in bills for Grand Rapids rallies. And I'll point this out as well. Remember, I had Chad Livengood on the show. He's from the Detroit News. He's their main politics editor. And when I would have him on during the campaign, I mean, he knew that area. He knows Detroit and Michigan better than anybody. Trump would go in and he would just say things about, we need to shut down EV plants and China's so far ahead of us in electric vehicles. Why should we even try to compete? And, Trump would make all of these comments that would be like, okay, I guess because the people are so riled up that they're in their hatred of immigrants and transgender people or whatever, that Trump would go in there and basically say things to them that were clearly harmful to their own economic interests, all the while not paying the bills right here. See here my baby in the background, perhaps. My baby girl. Okay, here's what the article says. Trump campaign won't pay $49,000 in bills for Grand Rapids rallies. The city of Grand Rapids is saying that Donald Trump campaign for president 2024 is refusing to pay $49,000 in bills for 2 rallies in the city this year. That is forcing the city to write off those expenses as uncollectible and to reevaluate policies for future campaign visits. The unpaid invoices are for 2 rallies that drew thousands into the city, both at the Van Andel Arena. Grand Rapids billed Trump's campaign nearly $33,000 for his rally in July. The biggest chunks for overtime for police and its public works department. The bill was due in October and went unpaid. It's highly unusual to have outstanding bills, especially with someone who clearly has raised enough money from their campaign to pay their bills, said outgoing Grand Rapids Mayor Rosalind Bliss. Federal records show that as of late November, Trump's campaign had nearly $10 million cash on hand of the $464 million it raised. The city of Grand Rapids billed Trump campaign more than $16,000 for his visit on November 4th, his last rally of the campaign. Most was for overtime for public works. That was the last stop he did was in Grand Rapids, and then he screwed them over by not paying $16,000. That also went unpaid. It goes to talk about how Vice President Kamala Harris paid her bill. The Trump campaign utilized a venue in a downtown district, requiring more road closures and associated safety measures, driving costs, the city spokesman said in an email to Target 8, the news network that's writing this. It was also the first event that the president-elect held following the assassination attempt, requiring heightened security. The Harris campaign event required the same level of security, but utilized a city park with ample green space, requiring a limited number of road closures and associated safety measures. The mayor says that the unpaid bills are now costing taxpayers. Quote, if the campaign doesn't pay, ultimately we still have bills to pay, and overtime and staffing costs and fencing costs and all of the things that go with having a presidential candidate come, especially with the level of security that was required, Bliss said. It's a huge ask for a city to host when you have a presidential candidate. It takes a ton of work in a very short period of time, and people work overtime. They work really hard to make sure that everyone is safe, and we should be reimbursed for that level of work. Target 8 called the phone number listed on the invoices for the Trump campaign, but the voicemail box was full. An email sent to the Trump campaign representative listed on the invoice was not answered. And I just want you to think about that. The campaign voice message box was full. They can't even go through that and delete old messages, and they're not returning phone calls. You know, it's like you have to have like a debt collector go after them to pay the bills that they owe. I mean, it's really bad conduct. And again, there shouldn't be a Democrat or Republican thing. This is just a not being responsible thing. And you're giving, and it's intentional and I believe malicious, and you're giving the middle finger to these cities and states that actually voted for you. Goes on to say Grand Rapids is not alone. In October, NBC News reported that the Trump campaign owed more than $750,000 to 4 cities and a county across the country, dating back 8 years, some of them. That doesn't include the $93,000 bill that went unpaid from the city of Battle Creek for a rally in December 2019, city officials said. And so what? We're talking about nearly $1 million in unpaid bills for these events, and that's just what we know about. Imagine all of the red states and red cities where they just don't even talk about it and they don't even publicize it and they like cover it up. I'm sure that the numbers, I could be wrong about this. This is just my guess. I bet you the number of unpaid bills for these types of events is closer to $5 and $10 million than $1 million. I think this is just what we know about, but I'm sure there's more out there because it seems this is just the MO, that this is just what he does. And we know that that's what he's always done his whole life. He's screwed over workers. He screws over the union workers and the contractors at the buildings that he would make, and he would get bailed out, but they would get screwed over when his companies would go bankrupt. Like, we know the guy's past. It's always a con. It's almost always a con. In an email to Target 8, a Battle Creek City spokesperson wrote, despite multiple attempts to collect payment, the city was unable to do so and subsequently wrote off the invoice in June 2020. She said she was unaware of any political campaigns with unpaid bills from the city. In other words, this ain't normal. This isn't like what other politicians do. You raise money and then you pay your bills. Trump doesn't pay his bills. And that's how he's going to operate and run America. Remember the first move that Donald Trump did when, with the continuing resolution. Donald Trump wanted to eliminate the debt ceiling or extend the debt ceiling discussion until 2029. Why? Because he wants to run up the debt. He previously did, when he was in office before, to $8 trillion, more than any other president before him. Now people estimate it could be 5, 10, 15. I think it'll be closer to 25, $30 trillion when all is said and done. He's reckless. Just look how he's reckless with these little cities. Not so little cities. She said she was unaware of any other political campaign that did this. It's important to note that the city does not automatically invoice political campaigns that visit Battle Creek, the spokesperson wrote. However, the Trump campaign's December 2019 visit resulted in significant overtime costs. In the city of Erie, Pennsylvania, the Trump campaign still owes $40,000 for stops in 2018 and 2023, city spokesman Rob Lee told Target 8. He also hasn't paid the $63,000 tab for a rally this past September September, Lee said. The city of Erie said it is also waiting for a $70,000 payment from the Harris campaign for a rally in October. Back in Grand Rapids, the city spokesman told Target 8 in an email that the Trump campaign has referred all requests for payments to the U.S. Secret Service, but the Secret Service won't pay. The U.S. Secret Service has indicated they are not budgeted for such costs, the Grand Rapids city spokesman wrote. So the Trump campaign that used these services are saying, let the federal government pay for it. Do you see how irresponsible that is as well? He said, the city is now developing policies and processes for future campaign visits based on what it's learned. I hope we'll learn from this, Bliss said. But the reality is, I think the city should still continue to pursue getting reimbursed. We do that. We have compliance efforts across the city. And if we're doing compliance to make sure a taxpayer is paying their bills, we should do the same for this. From now on, she said the city should consider getting the money up front. You think so? Maybe on the front end, we ask for a certain amount down or some kind of commitment to pay for the full cost. But I think we need to look at what our current process is, what's not working. It's Trump, okay? What's not working is that Trump ain't paying you. That's it. Incoming Grand Rapids Mayor David LeGrand also said the unpaid bill should lead to a change in protocol. If we have a history of somebody not paying, we definitely want to get the money up front. I mean, again, it's so embarrassing. By the way, CBS Mornings, after the VP debate, they sat down with Trump voters and Harris voters and undecided voters in Grand Rapids, Michigan, which is located in a swing district. After the debate, both undecided voters said they were going to vote for Donald Trump. So you got a lot of these voters end up voting for the guy who is going to be bad for Michigan. I mean, just take a look. One of the things that Donald Trump did in Michigan, too. Remember, he dressed the people up, or there were people at his events who were dressed up in auto workers for Trump shirts at a J.D. Vance event, but then they really weren't auto workers. They were just doing stolen valor type crap with auto workers and pretending they were auto workers. As Chad Livengood reported, Trump is in Flint, questioned why the U.S. is trying to compete with China on electric vehicles. Trump goes, why are we making a product that they dominate, Trump said. They are going to dominate. And so Trump was basically saying we should give up the EV race. He's very anti-EV. He's very anti a lot of the things that were bringing jobs back to Michigan. Donald Trump said, to people in Michigan, today you are all an afterthought in cars, he said of Michigan. Trump is less than 10 miles when he gave that speech from General Motors' massive Flint truck plant complex right down the I-69, where they make engines, stamp metal, and assemble profit-rich Chevy and GMC pickup trucks. Those trucks ain't going away because there's not a mandate to get rid of gas vehicles. So if you were living in Michigan, you knew the stuff he was saying to you was false, because you were working in the factories, or you're aware of these factories. You're aware of the manufacturing boom under President Biden. You could see it with your eyes in Michigan, right? You were aware that when Trump was in office, he didn't deliver on any of his promises for bringing auto back to Michigan, but Biden did. And that's not just me saying, oh, I like Biden. That's just the facts. Just look at what happened. There's a manufacturing boom under Biden and a manufacturing bust under Donald Trump. The exact opposite things happened. But yet you let Donald Trump convince you that he was the one who was good for you when he screwed it up and Biden and Harris brought it to you? Come on. Come on. At a rally in Flint, Trump again says big auto plants are being built in Mexico while he's 40 miles away from GM Orion Township, an assembly plant being transformed into an EV plant for all electric trucks that evidently Donald Trump and J.D. Vance want to shut down or not invested. And by the way, if Trump thinks that there's a lot of factories in Mexico, which by the way, there are, but there also are a lot of manufacturing boom in Michigan. So now you're going to tariff Mexico, which is a tax on American consumers, but you're going to do that on manufacturing there and make the price of automobiles more expensive to Americans here. Come on, people. I mean, we got to exercise some common sense here. I understand that there's a lot of disinfo, a lot of crap, but we got to be discerning in the information and what's good for your lives and stop letting con artists screw you over. Come on. But hit subscribe. Let's get to 4 million.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Midas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.